What's up, everyone? Welcome to season 4 of MyBLVD Podcast. This season, we're doing something special. I am here with my co-host, Missie. Say what's up to the people, Missie.
Hello, I'm so excited to join you, Dhati. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk about the who, what, when, where, how, and why of urban missions.
That's right. This season, we are going to be walking through together, like live, real conversations. We're going to be talking about real questions, really practical wisdom about how to do ministry in urban environments.
Yeah, this is going to be a primer for all of us. So let's join this journey. Let's grow, learn, and push forward urban missions together.
Stay tuned. This season, we're going to talk about how you can do ministry where you live, where you work, and where you worship. So let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of This Is My Boulevard. My name is Dhati Lewis.
And I'm Missie Branch.
And today our special guest is Brad Hill. We are excited to bring in someone who is a part of the Gloo family. And Gloo is someone that I remember meeting, being introduced to you years ago, and you guys have been integral in so many different ways. But in a lot of ways, when you talk about Gloo, it's kind of like you're behind the scenes in so many things, and so many people don't even know the impact that you guys are having on evangelicalism here in America in so many different ways. And so I'm grateful to bring you on, and you guys being one of our trusted partners.
Yes,
it's excited about this relationship, and especially exposing urban missionaries and urban practitioners to what Gloo is and what Gloo is about. And so, Brad, thanks for jumping on.
Oh, Missie, Dhati, awesome to be here with you guys. Hopefully this is helpful. We got a heart for everybody doing ministry, so excited to have the conversation.
Yeah, so why don't you just kind of kick us off and kind of, I've asked this question many times, and and it's kind of like it's been kind of, different.
Well,
it's a lot because you do so much. But who is Gloo? What do you do? Give us the thumbnail version of Gloo.
Yes, absolutely. And any answer here is probably going to feel like insufficient. And that's kind of part of the point is we serve so many parts of the church.
Yes.
We'll set it up and we can go down any lane we want, right? But at a simple level, we would just say Gloo is a technology platform. And we're in the business of connecting what we would call the faith and flourishing ecosystem. So that's kind of some new words, right? And so we think about the idea that God has designed us all to holistically grow. And, we use words like disciple making, but we think about flourishing of people, flourishing of communities. And the church is at the center of that. Of course, that's part of God's plan for this age. But there's so many other great organizations, whether those are church networks, even like MyBLVD and others that y'all are involved with. But think about publishers, think about other tech companies, think even about social services agencies that are not overtly, quote, Christian, but they lock arms with the church and they can provide resources that actually can create a more flourishing community. The problem is all these different kinds of organizations are not very connected to each other. And so we see that connect. You talked about Gloo, Dhati. I mean, we use the word connecting over here a lot because what we feel like is whether you're a church that's huge or whether you're just trying to, follow God's call in your corner of a city. These are my words. I would say you have an unfair advantage, even though it doesn't feel that way some days, because there is so much resource out there. If only we could be connected to it. And some of that's technology, some of it's content, some of it's training. So we're trying to get everybody connected, kind of like Ephesians 4 talks about the body of Christ. And at the end of that passage is this phrase that says, and every connecting ligament. So we kind of see a lot of our role at Gloo of we're not being the experts. We're not trying to solve every problem, but we do think we can help everybody be more connected.
I love that. I do. I love that. That was a great visual picture. Well, Brad, the demographic we serve are urban missionaries. So how would you say that your platforms can help urban missionaries better understand how to engage their communities?
Well, I think we live in a time right now where the culture is changing around us so much, so fast. And The way that church has been done in the last couple decades, maybe I would say, is a little bit more about attractional or more about programs, content, what have you.
Mm.
What we see, we've sat with so many different leaders, missionaries, counselors, trainers, whatever. There's this simple, what we would call core interaction that God's designed us for. The way we'd say it is relationship catalyzes growth. We are built to
Mm.
grow in the context of relationship. That doesn't have to be inside four walls of a church, or doesn't have to be in a overt Christian setting.
Mhm.
Um, but how can technology support relationship building? One of the things I would share too, we've been doing a lot of research lately with our friends at the Barna Group, and really interesting stat that stuck out to me about Gen Z that we recently picked up. 59% of them agree that their generation spends too much time on their phones.
Mm.
Uh, which that's like, from an old guy like me, I'm like, yeah, y'all do spend too much time on your phone. But they
Mhm.
they admit it, and further, majority would say too that they believe that in-person relationship has more value than online.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean
Mhm.
they discount online, right? It just means
Mhm.
that there's a fluidity to it. So,
Mhm.
so one of the things we think about at Glue is with every piece of technology, whether it's texting or we have free assessments that help any leader know more about their people. We also are doing a lot in
Mm.
the AI space right now. But no matter what it is, we always think about through this lens of how is this piece of technology supporting the relationship, not ever replacing it or trying to subvert it, right? But how is this going to help, whether it's an urban missionary or pastor or just a layperson, forge deeper relationships in Jesus' name?
Mhm.
Right. And
Mhm.
that's where I love it. I mean, what you just said, connecting. And that's why you guys are called Glue, spelled
Mhm.
GLOO, not GLOUE, but glue. And this, that playing on
Mhm.
that is the connecting and sticking together. And, you mentioned at the very end of that, just this concept of AI.
Yeah.
And I want to let's dig deep a little bit
Mhm.
in there, because obviously there's kind of this evolution of AI to, if you're using AI, you're cheating, to if you're using AI, you're lazy, to if you're just like all the different
Or the
evolutions
people
of
are
AI.
so afraid of it,
They are
just
afraid of
won't even
AI.
touch it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so you had all of these different evolutions, but you guys at Glue has decided to kind of jump in
Mhm.
feet first, to AI. And I was down there for kind of a time in Denver, and it just blew my mind of kind of what you guys are doing with AI
Mm.
and with Glue and some of the advancement that you guys are doing. Talk a little bit about kind of that space and kind of what you're seeing around kind of AI and Glue's platform technology and what you guys are doing with it.
Yeah, we're at a point where I know I wake up and a lot of us wake up every day and we're just trying to keep up with whatever AI is changing. It's like every single day there's something new. It's really fascinating. And Missy, you're right. It can conjure up really positive reactions, but it can
Mhm.
also freak out people. We understand
Mhm.
that. For those who like to nerd out on this stuff, what is that there's a lot of larger tech companies and startups right now that are working behind the scenes to build all this amazing tech.
Yes.
And
Yes.
one of the things that we've studied a lot from Glue is how biblically aligned, or we might say how values aligned, is all this tech, because it
Mhm.
has great potential and great power. Um, you know, you think about what is technology. I mean, you hold a paper Bible in your hand. We don't think about that that's technology, because there was a time when there was no printing press. And
Mm.
the printing press came around, and there were a bunch of Christians that weren't so sure about that for a little while.
Yes. Yes.
That was new and change, right? But we don't call paper books technology anymore.
Right.
Um, Same thing happened with
Mhm.
radio and TV and the internet, and then here we are with AI.
Movies. Yeah. Yep.
So it feels foreign, it feels new, but it just, technology itself is, we would say, amoral. It's not bad, it's not good. It can be used for any purpose.
Mhm.
So what we're trying to do is put in the hands of any leader, anyone that's trying to advance, again, the gospel, the flourishing of people. How do we have a more values aligned set of tools that harness this power? So one of the things we think about at Glue is, I know a lot of your viewers and listeners probably have played around with Chat GPT and some of
Mhm.
those tools that are out there. They're pretty cool and they can help you do a lot of stuff. But if you've tried asking those tools questions about morality or
Right.
ethics, like if you ask ChatGPT, is it wrong to murder? It's going to give you some type of answer that's rooted in a lot of relativism. And it's like, well, some say this, but others say that. And
Mm-hmm.
even worse, if you ask it about parenting or marriages, it's not rooted in biblical truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've actually got studies now that we can systematically show that all these tools, while great at helping me plan recipes or
Mm-hmm.
great at helping me come up with an idea for a term paper I'm writing, it's not what I as a pastor would recommend anybody go to for matters of faith, matters of the heart. We think that there's room to fix that. So, at Gloo, we're actively working with a number of partners to build some tools that you're going to see releasing this year that will give people the power of kind of a chat like interface, but rooted in biblical truth.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
other things with around the business of church as well. Again,
Mhm.
just to make sure that we're aligned to the values that we all hold, but we can kind of take advantage. And we would love to see the broader church lead on this.
And
On this.
what are some of the ways that think like users, like missionaries, practitioners will be interfaced? Like, as you guys are building that out, how do you feel the church and
The Big C
others,
Church.
the Big C Church, would use and utilize these tools that you're building?
So I think there's two big themes I would say on that, Dhati. Thinking about a missionary or a pastor or leader, you can be a user and practitioner of the tools, but also you can be a guide. So let me explain that. So
Mm.
the user and practitioner of the tools, this is where one of our leaders likes to say, when you wake up and think about any task you're doing right now, think AI first. That's kind of a challenge mindset to just think about,
Mm.
maybe I used to write notes this way, or I used to check on the bus route this way, or anything you're doing there. You can experiment and think about, is there an AI tool that
Mm.
might help me speed that up, save time, learn things I didn't know. So we have a number of tools actually linked inside of Gloo. There's a great one we love to talk about called church.tech that can help with taking maybe a sermon or a piece of content you have and creating discussion guides around it instantly, or translating
Wow.
it into Spanish or French or any language, right? So there's like real tasks where AI is going to cut that time from weeks or days down to minutes.
Yeah.
So that's using the tool as well. The guide part, though, I'm actually more interested in, because if you could put yourself in the hearts and minds of the people in your city that you're trying to reach, they're all dealing with this too. Like everyone in our
Mm.
culture is confronted right now with AI. Parents are dealing with it, trying to figure out how to solve challenges with their kids at school.
Mm-hmm.
People in relationship are trying to figure out, is that photo I'm looking at, is that real, or is that doctored up? Is that fake? Um, our research confirms people don't expect you as a faith leader to be an expert in the tech. So you can just exhale. Like, you don't have to be,
To know it
you,
all. Yes.
you don't have
Yeah.
to understand all the bits and bytes, but they do really hunger for guidance, because I contend AI is technology, but it's much more of a cultural shift that we're all
Yeah.
sitting in the middle of right now. And I think that there's some good principled ways that actually AI can be a conversation starter for you if you're talking to people, and you can earn trust and help people navigate all this, just as we're all learning, because no one's an expert on this yet. But what you probably have that they may not is, you understand truth, and you understand discernment, and you understand ultimately, God's word. And so how that can be viewed through this new tech, I think, is a really important place to be a guide for people, because they're asking for that help.
You, our org and your org were both recently at a conference called Exponential, and we got to be in the audience and see a partnership with Gloo work. And I remember I just was like, this is powerful. This is brilliant. And this is actually so useful for the way you partnered. And I could just see how, as an organization, even a small one, the power of the tools you have can really be impactful for us. And so I really do think it's important to recognize that just like parents have never had to, before this generation, have never had to know how to tell kids not to be on the phone or how to parent through phones, right? Our moms can't help us with that. In the same way, leaders have not known how to lead through AI. And I think if we're wise, partnering with organizations like yours really will take us into this future without the fear and without the extreme immorality bents, but really be able to see the value of a partnership like this.
Yeah, and we have a minute left, Brad, and I would just say, piggybacking on Missie's question, that partnership was one that you mentioned earlier, was with Barna, and how you're doing, the research that's been taking place in these days. In this last minute, just share a little bit about some of that and your partnership with Barna and how Gloo is partnering and how that is impacting the church.
Well, it gets down to every leader too. I mean, the state of the church is a very broad initiative, and I would just direct people, you can visit stateofthechurch.com, and there's a wealth of free research. Every month we're releasing new stats, some of which are really impactful. We've got some really exciting information about to release, by the way, on the attitudes around Jesus. And spoiler, there's some really good news that we're all going to be celebrating here soon.
I'm excited.
But that research, Dhati, that you talk about, what we're really doing is we're trying to help every single leader become, in a way, a little mini researcher, because whether you're a pastor or a missionary or any context, there's the state of the church, but then we want you to be able to see the state of your church, the state of your community, the state of your city. And so to do that, one of the things we give is a free assessment tool that you can give to people right on their phones. And it's going to let them answer some simple questions, takes usually 5 minutes. And then they're going to get their own personal dashboard of how they're flourishing in 7 key areas. And then you as a leader or as a network get to see the roll up of all that. It's all anonymous, but you can kind of see, like, how are the people doing that I'm serving and I'm shepherding? And maybe we do this every 6 months, every 12 months as we continue in our ministry. And that starts to give us a really measurable way to see, is the Spirit moving? Is our work, producing fruit? And where do we maybe need to put some energy? This is going to help leaders, we think, be much more confident and stop leading just out of guesswork. And also to put in the hands of the people you're serving a real tool to say, you can own your discipleship, and you can understand how you're doing in all areas of life, not just spiritual. So stateofthechurch.com is a really good place for leaders to go start. And then gloo.com, like you said, Dhati, Gloo, gloo.com. We got a lot of free tools there. Every leader listening should take advantage of the free texting service that we offer. But there's also discounts on resources and materials and other things that you might find useful. So everybody's invited to go check both those websites out.
That's so great.
Man, again, a wealth of resource. We are excited that you're one of our trusted partners, and we're excited for Gloo and what you're doing and all the partnerships and really connecting people together. And so, again, please go check out those sites. They will be helpful for you.
Absolutely.
And, and helping us to take responsibility of where we live, where we work, and where we worship. Again, this is another episode of This Is My Boulevard. Thank you for our special guest, Brad Hill, and he is the man. Thank you for breaking it down in such a clear and concise way.
Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. God bless.